Daniel throws every spare dollar at eliminating his debt. Ryan carries the exact same debt, but only pays the minimums and funnels every extra dollar into the stock market instead. One of them is executing Dave Ramsey's playbook with religious precision. The other is doing exactly what every financially savvy voice on the internet insists is the mathematically superior move. They both think the other one is quietly destroying their future. But when you actually trace the numbers across 5, 10, and 20 years, the outcome isn't what either of them predicted. And here's the uncomfortable part. Dave Ramsey might be more correct than his critics are willing to acknowledge, but for a reason he has never once explained properly. Let's build this comparison on completely equal ground. Daniel and Ryan are both 29 years old, both earning $57,000 a year, both dragging around the exact same financial baggage, $24,000 in student loans sitting at 5.8% interest, $12,000 remaining on a car loan at 6.9%, and $7,500 on a credit card charging 24% interest. Total debt, $43,500, painfully close to what the average American carries in non-mortgage consumer debt right now. After rent, utilities, groceries, insurance, and the minimum payment on every account, they each have $650 a month left breathing room. Same income, same debt, same monthly surplus. The only split in the road is what each man decides to do with that $650. Daniel goes full Ramsey. He locks in on baby step 2 and treats his debt like it personally insulted him. Every single dollar of that $650 goes straight at the balances. He attacks the credit card first because it has the highest emotional weight, the smallest balance he can actually kill quickly. Then he rolls everything into the car loan, then the student loans, the debt snowball in motion. Ryan makes his minimum payments and not a cent more. His $650 flows directly into a low-cost total market index fund. The stock market has averaged around 10% annually over long stretches. His debt is costing him 5 to 7% on most of it. Why accelerate payments on relatively cheap debt when the market is historically paying you more? On the surface, Ryan has a reasonable argument, but surfaces have a way of hiding what's underneath. Before the numbers come out, let's be honest about what Ramsey actually teaches, because the internet has turned his strategy into a punching bag based on a version of it that doesn't exist. His baby steps are specific and sequential. Step 2, clear all consumer debt using the snowball method. Step 4, invest 15% of household income into retirement accounts. The sequence is intentional. He is not telling people to never invest. He is telling them to destroy the debt first and then build wealth. Step 2 precedes Step 4 on purpose, intensity before investing. In the snowball method, targeting the smallest balance regardless of interest rate is not a mathematical strategy. It is a psychological one. Small wins create momentum. Momentum creates consistency. Ramsey has said it plainly, if people made purely rational financial decisions, credit card debt would not exist. Is the snowball mathematically optimal? Let's find out. For the first 2 years, Ryan looks like the smartest person in the room. He is depositing $650 a month into the market. After 24 months, with compound growth working in his favor, his portfolio has climbed past $17,000. He opens his brokerage app and sees a number that is visibly growing. His debt is also moving. Slowly, minimum payments are nibbling at the balances, but his student loans are barely shifting because at $260 a month minimum, the majority is absorbed by interest. Daniel, meanwhile, is living like someone preparing for a financial emergency that is already here. He took on a weekend gig doing deliveries. Subscriptions canceled. Dining out gone. Every dollar piled onto that credit card. He eliminated it in 9 months, then redirected every freed-up dollar toward the car loan and started hammering it. After 2 years, here is exactly where they stand. Ryan holds a portfolio worth approximately $17,000. His remaining debt sits around $35,500. Net worth, positive $1,500. Daniel has zero invested. His remaining debt is down to around $18,000. Net worth, positive $18,000. Ryan is technically ahead by roughly $1,000 in net worth, and he got there without skipping a single restaurant, without a second job, without any lifestyle sacrifice whatsoever. If the story ended here, Ryan would be declared the winner without debate, but the story does not end here. Every month that Ryan invests $650 rather than attacking his credit card, he is handing roughly $150 in interest charges directly to the credit card company. That's $150 a month, guaranteed, regardless of whether the market is up or down, going nowhere except into the lender's profit margin. He is earning roughly 10% in the market on his $650 monthly contribution, while simultaneously paying 24% on a $7,500 balance. That is not financial optimization. That is funding someone else's profit margin while calling it a strategy. Ryan's blended interest rate across all three debts runs approximately 9 to 11%. Once you factor in taxes on his brokerage gains, his real after-tax return drops closer to 7 or 8%. The gap between what his debt is costing him and what his portfolio is returning is nearly closed, and on the credit card specifically, he is deeply underwater on the comparison.
Now here is the one scenario where Ryan's instinct is genuinely and unambiguously correct. If his employer provides a 401k match, say 50 cents on every dollar up to 6% of his salary, that is an instantaneous 50% return before the market does anything. Nothing, not any debt payoff, beats a guaranteed 50% return. Even Ramsey's own team has walked back to acknowledge this exception. Capture the match first, always. But Ryan is not simply capturing a match, he is pouring his entire $650 monthly surplus into a taxable brokerage account while a credit card charges him 24%. That is not discipline, that is a spreadsheet being used to justify a decision that looks smart in theory and bleeds money in practice. And here is the detail that the spreadsheet will not show you. Ryan's minimum payments are almost entirely servicing interest, not chipping away at principal. He is running in place financially, while feeling like he is moving forward. Daniel, by contrast, is sprinting toward a wall he is about to break through. At month 36, Daniel makes his final debt payment, $43,500, completely gone in 3 years. He opens his banking app and sees his full paycheck sitting there with no obligation attached to it, no due dates, no interest charges, no lenders waiting for their portion. From this moment forward, Daniel has his original $650 surplus, plus every dollar that was going toward minimum payments, roughly $870 per month. That is $1,520 a month that is entirely his to direct. He builds a 6-month emergency fund in 4 months, then begins investing 15% of his income into his 401k and funnels the rest into a brokerage account. Total monthly investment, approximately $1,450. Ryan is still paying minimums, still investing his $650. His portfolio has grown, but Ryan still carries over $31,000 in debt. His credit card is still extracting interest at 24%. His car loan has roughly 2 years remaining. His student loans stretch another 6 or 7 years beyond that. Ryan has more invested, but Ryan also has 3 separate lenders receiving part of his paycheck every single month, limiting every choice he makes. And from this point forward, every month that passes makes Daniel's position structurally stronger. Let's trace both paths all the way out. Daniel's timeline. Months 1 through 36, zero investing, total focus on debt elimination. Months 37 through 41, building the emergency reserve. Months 42 onward, investing $1,450 monthly into low-cost index funds. That is 78 months of active investing. At 10% average annual return, Daniel's portfolio at the 10-year mark is worth approximately $168,000 to $180,000. No debt, fully funded emergency reserve. Ryan's timeline. Months 1 through 120, investing $650 monthly while making minimums. Credit card clears around month 42, car loan finishes around month 63, student loans done around month 98. After each payoff, he rolls the freed minimum into investments, growing from $650 to $800, then $1,100, then $1,350. His portfolio at the 10-year mark sits at approximately $145,000 to $160,000. Ryan invested for the full 10 years. Daniel invested for less than 7, and Daniel is ahead. Two reasons explain this entirely. First, Daniel paid dramatically less in total interest. By destroying his debt in 36 months rather than letting it drain him for 8 to 10 years, Daniel saved somewhere between $14,000 and $19,000 in interest payments, money that became investments instead of lender revenue. Second, Daniel's monthly investment amount, once debt-free, was nearly double Ryan's starting contribution. $1,450 a month compounds at a completely different velocity than $650 a month, even accounting for Ryan's head start.
But this entire comparison granted Ryan something that real life almost never provides. It assumed Ryan was perfect. It assumed he invested exactly $650 every single month for 10 straight years, never panicked, never sold during a downturn, never pulled money out for a car problem or a medical bill or a moment of weakness when the market dropped 30% and the headlines made it feel like the world was ending. In reality, almost nobody maintains that discipline. J.P. Morgan tracked actual investor behavior across a 20-year window. The S&P 500 delivered roughly 10% annually during that stretch. The average real investor earned approximately 3%. Not 10, not 8, 3%. Because they bought near peaks, sold during drops, skipped contributions, withdrew early, chased performance, and made emotional calls at the worst possible moments. That gap between what the market returned and what investors actually captured is the entire argument sitting in plain sight. Ryan's plan functions perfectly only if Ryan functions perfectly for a decade. Ryan is not a financial algorithm. Ryan is a person carrying credit card debt, a car payment, and a brokerage account that just dropped 28% in a single quarter. Ryan is going to feel something, and when the feeling comes, he is going to act on it. And that action is almost always the one that costs him the most. Daniel's plan requires no emotional discipline during a market collapse because Daniel does not own a portfolio during years 1 through 3. He cannot make a panicked decision about something he does not hold. Every dollar directed toward debt becomes permanent principal reduction the moment it leaves his account. That progress holds whether the market rises 25% or crashes 35%. Ramsey's system is designed to remove the variable that ruins most financial plans. Ryan's system requires that variable to behave flawlessly for years on end. That is the real reason Ramsey's approach works, and it is the reason he's never articulated clearly. He packages it as a moral stance. He quotes scripture about the borrower and the lender. His critics respond with interest rate math, but neither argument reaches the actual point. The reason debt elimination first tends to outperform in the real world is not moral and it's not mathematical. It is behavioral. It works because it eliminates the single greatest threat to your financial future, which is not your interest rate and is not your market return. It is the version of you that exists under financial stress and uncertainty. Here is how to think practically about your own situation. If your employer matches retirement contributions, capture every dollar of that match before anything else. A 50% guaranteed return on the first 6% of your salary is the single best investment available to you at any interest rate. Take it, then redirect everything else toward debt. If your debt sits below 5%, the mathematical case for investing alongside it becomes genuinely strong. A 3.8% student loan against a historical 10% market return is a meaningful spread worth considering. The lower the interest rate, the more compelling the simultaneous investing argument becomes. If your debt is above 7 or 8%, the math and the psychology both point toward elimination first. Between 5 and 7% is the honest gray zone, where the right answer depends on your tax situation, your temperament, and your actual track record of staying consistent through volatility. But here is the question worth sitting with, honestly. Are you actually going to invest that money? Not are you planning to, not do you intend to. Are you genuinely going to set up automatic transfers, contribute every single month, leave it completely untouched, and hold steady through every market drop for the next decade? Because if the answer contains any hesitation whatsoever, Ramsey's path is the right one. Not because the math declares it, because your own behavior does. Daniel and Ryan both began with $43,500 in debt and $650 a month of freedom. Daniel treated his debt like a fire he had to put out immediately and did not invest a single dollar for 3 years. Ryan played the long game, invested from the first month, and let the mathematical logic of market returns work in his favor. After 10 years, Daniel, who invested for less than 7 of those 10 years, holds a larger net worth than Ryan, not because he is more intelligent, not because fortune favored him, but because he paid thousands less in interest, invested a larger amount once his income was freed, and never once had to make an emotional decision about his portfolio in the middle of a market panic. The real trap is not choosing to pay off debt first. The real trap is not choosing to invest through it. The real trap is making a $43,500 decision based on a half-remembered concept from a podcast episode without ever mapping your own numbers, your own interest rates, your own tax bracket, and your own genuinely honest answer about how disciplined you actually are when things get uncomfortable. Because the best financial plan is not the one that generates the highest theoretical return on a spreadsheet. It is the one you will actually execute completely. And if you are already thinking about what happens when you go completely car payment free and never borrow for a vehicle again, that is an entirely different conversation. And what the math reveals there might genuinely shift how you think about transportation and wealth. But for now, the next time someone insists that paying off debt ahead of schedule is leaving money on the table, ask yourself the only question that matters. Would you truly put that money to work in the market, or would it quietly disappear into lifestyle spending? Because that honest answer is the only one worth building a plan around.